The power of thought. Look, we can go around and around and around this painful merry-go-round and not really get to the end of it, not get to the root of it. We can tell each other that you're a liar. We can lose our train of thought because, we feel something's going to happen that we're no longer going to, things are going no longer going to be the same. Things are going to change that I don't want to change. That life is going to be something I don't recognize. But we as human beings must realize that the existence of change is a part of our reality. Let's talk about, and I will start with the Indians as it refers to the indigenous people, and excuse me, and then we'll talk about, everything, all the other races, how it all looks. We'll start with the indigenous people. They did not see the change coming. And the change, because of how they thought, they didn't make the necessary adjustments to keep themselves from facing almost genocide. Black people in Africa didn't make the change that was necessary so that we could become a united Africa. And we wouldn't have to deal with, these things the Europeans have imposed on us, which they did not. We allowed that to be imposed on us. We allowed their way of life to be imposed on us. We allowed their dreams and their aspirations to be imposed on us. Now, because of the revolution, there's a change. You're not going to be able to distinguish. The white man is not going to be able to distinguish between what is white and and the black man is not going to be able to distinguish between what is black and what is white, and the white man vice versa. Because of the intermingling of the races. This is a great part of what happened in the election. Now, I watched something called Value Entertainment because it's a kind of leaning right state of mind. And they had Newt Gingrich on there, and he was talking about, and this was before the election, he was talking about, if Joe Biden wins and Kamala Harris and them being, so far to the left and Biden being weak and these kind of things. But Newt Gingrich said something very interesting. And he said that if Trump has a lasting legacy, it would be in the courts. Because he was able to appoint 3 justices, and that the threat of packing the courts would always be looming. If there's anything that we can glean from what has happened to us in the last 4 years, is that we don't want we the majority do not want a lasting effect of Donald Trump-ism. We don't want that. I won't allow the Republicans to say to me that I'm, to the far left. I, like most Americans, are somewhere in the center right, to be honest with you. The conservatism is not born on the backs of white people in this country. Us black men, without naming it, gave birth to conservatism. Because you have to, you can't live in the way that we did, being the first people on the planet, by scientific terms, unless you're a conservative, unless you believe that if I don't go out and get it, it's not going to get got. That's a conservative state of mind. I have to go out and get it. And the perversion of that is, talking to people after we have evolved from that, talking to each other and talking to one another, or, trying to mingle the truth as it fits my reality instead of being able to adapt to my reality. I'm sure many of us black men had to die, had to be eaten, you know what I mean, by fellow predators before we got it, before we learned. That's what distinguishes us from the animals. Animals are no less equal than us, in my assessment. But what distinguishes us differently from them is that our ability to reason our environment, and that that kind of reasoning helps me to adapt to the change in my environment. You see? And they, those people in power don't want to have to adapt to change. They want to keep it the same way. And so they'll say anything to you. They will lie to you. They will take a beating from anybody, Trump, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, all the ones that I've discussed, Newt Gingrich, all of them will allow that Trumpianism to go on because they don't want to have to engage in change. They don't want to have to engage in being and sharing. See, they do that trickle down effect. I'll give you what's left over. No. See, my forefathers back in Africa got the fresh meat because they knew that's the meat that they needed to survive. And we no longer are the minority. And according to the polls, you are the minority. Now, I said it should have been a landslide. And I thought it was closer than it was, but it's really not. The numbers don't really support a close election. It actually shows there more people voted. That's true, but the margin of victory was landslide-ish. Shoom. A lot more people got the message and believed in a new message. That the change is coming, the change is happening, and the change will take place. And we're not going to allow you to maintain the status quo just because you don't want to adapt to that change. I'll see you next time.